Okay, so I did start this. It is live. We are broadcasting. Okay,
Perfect.
and my Audacity's on, and I don't know if
Oh,
there's anything else.
do I have to
Michelle,
record myself?
um, it
Yes.
would be good if you could, but not 100%.
If we have to use the Google Hangouts, it seems like it's always been a good idea and very helpful to have that second copy just in case.
Okay.
Is that going to throw your computer into disarray?
It may. I'm
Is
just
it
gonna launch. I'm gonna give it one try, and if it doesn't work, I'll be like, I'm going to figure this out at a later date.
okay?
Because I actually have a life again.
Yay!
Yeah, exactly. And everyone's like, oh, now's a great time to get pregnant. Ha!
And you haven't told them all that this is not going to happen?
Oh, you know how people are. It's
Oh, I
always it's always an option, right?
Oh, absolutely. And then, yeah. And
And I'm
for
like,
me,
I don't see
because,
you offering to help with childcare, do you? No?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no,
This is
yeah.
just for your amusement. Yeah, no thanks.
But if that's family, right? There's a pressure to from the parents and in-laws
Well,
and
I mean, I don't have any
relatives
contact with
and
my mom, and my dad's sort of like, yeah, that would be cool one day, maybe.
okay, so that's good.
So my parents are fine. Well, I guess my dad is fine.
Yay, yay.
But okay.
Or it's a
Did
nice
you get
time
an
for a
echo? Do you
vacation,
guys hear an echo?
Uh, an echo?
Yeah, do you hear an echo?
I heard
Nope.
something that sounded like you muffled, but I don't think it was actually, I think it was just you a little muffled sounding. It wasn't an
Okay.
echo.
This sounds fine then?
Yes, sounds
Yep.
very
Okay,
good.
perfect. Okay. So
It all
I'm
sounds
recording
good.
independently and there's a cat in my face.
Good.
As there should be. Okay. I'm ready to go then.
Okay.
Excellent. I don't know what the introduction is anymore to this, but I think I'm just going to start with. I can't find it. My name is so and so, and with me today there is. Yeah,
Well, the intro is like pre-recorded now, right?
but I still have to do the. Don't I have to say what the episode title is and stuff, or no?
Yeah.
All you
So
need
you
to
start
say
with
is,
like, you're listening to Life, the Universe, and everything else. Today on the show, blah.
Okay.
yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah.
Okay. Timing countdown. We'll go from 5 to 1 and then start.
Okay.
5,
5, 4,
4,
3,
3,
2,
2, 1.
1.
You're listening to Life, the Universe, and Everything Else. Today on the show, we talk about Dr. Oz and Deepak Chopra. A little bit of a skeptical investigation into what these gentlemen are all about. My name's Donna Harris, and with me today I have Rochelle
Hi.
and Laura.
Hello.
Nice to be with you, ladies. This is going to be an interesting episode, I do believe. There's been some very active pre-conversation before we started the recording button, so I think we should just get right into it here. I've prepared just a little bit of an introduction, just kind of to set the stage. What I wanted to start with was just a little bit of background on both of these gentlemen. So first
I
up
like how
is
you keep referring to them as gentlemen. That's not the adjective I would use, but continue.
I know. I'm just polite. I'm just used to talking that way. Deepak Chopra. Okay, we're not talking about, as Jem Newman alluded earlier, he's not the CEO of Canada Post that we have in Canada. This is Deepak Chopra from the United States. Actually, he got his medical degree in India before immigrating in 1970 to the States. He actually specialized in endocrinology and became chief of staff at the New England Memorial Hospital. In the 19 yeah, I was quite surprised with that. In the 1980s, he began practicing transcendental meditation, and in 85 he resigned his position and he established the Maharishi Ayurveda Health Center. But he left that transcendental movement in 1994 and founded his own Chopra Center for Well-Being. And what he's all about is the principles of Ayurveda, incorporating into a mind-body relationship, and then he starts getting into all these kind of weird other bizarre things, but there's a lot of talk about
Quantum.
him. Quantum, yes, quantum mechanics. But what is really interesting about Deepak is the industry. He's got something like 60 plus books on the bestseller list. Actually, his watershed year was 1993. He had a book out, Ageless Body, Timeless Mind, The Quantum Alternative to Growing Old. That book, he got an interview with Oprah that year on July 12th, and after that, made him a household name. He sold he sold 137,000 copies of the book within 24 hours and 400,000 by the end of that week. Excuse me.
So what I've learned here is that Oprah is kind of awful.
I hate to think that, but I have to agree.
Like, I mean, in terms of providing good advice on her show, like she's put both of these guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let's not forget Dr. Phil either.
I was just thinking that.
Let's not even.
You know, once upon a time,
and she also promoted The Secret. Let's not forget that.
Yes. Yes. I know. You know, once upon a time, I loved Oprah. I really did. I watched her show regularly when I could watch it, and there was all sorts of interesting shows. And then she started going down the woo-woo path, and yeah, I haven't watched her. Well, her show is gone now, her regular show, but it's been many, many years since I actually, you know, took a listen to what Oprah had to say. But I digress. Best thing, going back to Chopra. He believes, on the topic of aging, he believes that aging is simply learned behavior that can be slowed or prevented. And Chopra himself has said he expects to live way beyond 100. So, yeah, we'll be watching for that in a few years or many years or whenever.
I was about to say, isn't the first rule of quackery to not make a testable claim?
I know, he broke the rule. Yeah. Okay, so here's the details on his books. He's written 75 books, 21 of them New York Times bestsellers.
Wow, 75 books.
Yes.
And so was the book that got him noticed, was that his first book, or was that one in a series?
Might have been one of his earlier books. I'm not sure if it was his first.
Even still, even if that was 20 books in, that means that in the span of 21 years, he has written 50-plus books.
Yes.
That's ridiculous. That is a huge amount of pages to write. How could he possibly fill that all in that time?
Well, most self-help books, and I mean, I've never picked up his books, so I can't really say for sure, but I know that a lot of these books have, like, really big font. I'm not even joking. It'll be like 100 pages with a 18-point font.
True.
Wow.
Make it more easily readable.
There's also the issue of co-authors too. We're not saying that Chopra has actually, you know, had a co-author for any of his books, but you never know.
That's just the sheer volume there is. I mean, how would you have time to go over that all in depth when you're writing like 4 books a year?
But is that
right? But if you just spew things, you know, like if you have to do factual research against the topic, then yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right?
Research just slows you down. Okay, so here's the numbers, though. His business grosses about $20 million annually, built on the sale of courses, books, videos, herbal supplements, and massage oils. According to his website, a year's worth of anti-aging products can cost up to $10,000.
Wow. There's not a lot of thinking in that $10,000 there.
No. And as 2005, he was able to charge $25,000 to $30,000 per lecture, 5 or 6 times a month.
Wow.
So can we say what? I think I can kind of see what Deepak Chopra gets out of his career. Yeah, that actually quite startled me. So you can see where his empire is being built. Now, Dr. Oz is a little bit different. Now, he has actually co-authored several books. including 6 New York Times bestsellers. They were co-authored, though. He has a regular column in Esquire and the Oprah magazine. And he started his own bi-monthly magazine in 2014.
Oh, really?
Yeah, bi-monthly. It's called Dr. Oz: The Good Life. I don't think I've actually seen it on the shelves, but it may not. I don't know. Haven't really looked for it. I have to be honest. But he does sound like he's still got some interest here. Now he's a professor at the Department of Surgery at Columbia since 2001. He directs the Cardiovascular Institute and Complementary Medicine Program at New York's Presbyterian Hospital. His research interests include heart replacement surgery, minimally invasive cardiac surgery, and healthcare policy. He has authored over 400 research papers, book chapters, and medical books, and received several patents. So I know he still does surgery. Like I think I remember Thursdays would be his day to actually keep the hands in there and still do surgery. He's a cardiothoracic surgeon.
Yeah, in order to keep his status, he would have to do a certain number of surgeries a year, like a certain number of hours.
Right,
Mhm.
right. So I had to say that kind of, okay, that's a good thing. I thought that was a really good thing that he's at least keeping up with the medicine end of things. But I think he's really gone astray lately, and the impetus for this show, for myself, was the news about him being called in front of the Senate committee. That was all over the news 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now, this Senate committee, it actually, when you search for it online, that is all the headlines you will find is Dr. Oz grilled, Dr. Oz in front of Senate committee, Dr. Oz this. It didn't even talk about what the hearings were about.
Yeah.
So when I started doing a little look at that, actually, people, in the show notes, we're going to include a link to, it's a new show. I've never actually seen it before. It's called Last Week with John Oliver. It's on HBO.
Last week tonight.
Last Week Tonight, thank you.
Yeah.
He did a great segment on Dr. Oz Meets the Senate.
That was fabulous. It was the best.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I actually hadn't seen any of this fellow before, but I have to say, go watch it if you're interested at all in this topic, because that really was interesting, and it was a good background into the whole idea of health supplements in the States, the herbal supplements.
Mm-hmm.
So what I took away from that was that the hearings themselves was a whole bunch more than just Dr. Oz getting called on the carpet. This was looking at what the supplements are being sold these days. And honestly, it gets a little scary. Did either of you have any information on the herbal supplements end of things from your point of view?
Well, I do know that in Canada we have slightly more tight regulations in that they can't make active health claims without approval by Health Canada. So we have that going for us. That being said, you can bring something into the country as long as it has a label that's both in English and French, and it goes. You need to apply for a certificate or whatever, but lots of people are able to sell without those. I know I looked into this a few years ago, and some of the supplements were like approved by Health Canada, as if this was a feature and not like obligatory for it to be on the store shelves.
Yeah.
And in order for them to be approved by Health Canada, they just have to basically apply for a license and like tell them what is in it.
But
it
doesn't need to be accurate. They just
need to say need to be accurate. It just needs to be known. Like,
yeah, this is what's supposed to be in it.
Yeah,
sorry, what was that?
Exactly.
You can get a homeopathic Health Canada approved pill because it's a known thing. So you can get arnica tincture. and take that for your muscle pain, and it can say on the bottle, like, this is Health Canada approved. And actually, there's a whole database on Health Canada's website of all the approved supplements.
Yes.
So
now, when we say approved, it's important to note that they are not approved for efficacy at all. They're only somewhat approved for safety.
They're approved for safety so much as they tell Health Canada what's in it, and Health Canada believes them.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's not actually tested. It's like, yeah, there's no lead in this. There's no arsenic. Yeah, there's definitely, I don't know, ginkgo biloba in this. And Health Canada goes, okay, you filled out the paperwork, put it on the shelves. But they don't say, give us a bottle and let us test it before you can do anything with it. And even if it did pass all of those things, it's still, Health Canada is still not saying, okay, this actually works or this doesn't work. That there is no, the fact that it's on a store shelf does not by any way, shape, or form show that it is going to work as it's supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, it's interesting because the advertising it as effective and safe is in kind of this regulatory dead zone between the Standards Council. So if you go to them and say, like, hey, people are promoting this, what's that thing they have, MoseyQ? It's a homeopathic mosquito repellent. I'm not even joking.
Oh, no.
Based out of Calgary here. It's like a pill that you take, and it repels mosquitoes, apparently. But if you go after to the Ad Standards Council and say, these people are lying, like, there's no evidence that taking a pill that has sugar in it is going to prevent mosquitoes from biting you, and they go, well, that's really a health claim, you should really go out to Health Canada. Right. And you go to Health Canada, and Health Canada's like, well, yes, we approve the supplement, but they're not really making a health claim. It's really more inaccurate advertising, so you should go to the Ad Council.
Yeah, and from what I understand, the natural supplements industry and the FDA and such are in that same sort of position in the States as well.
Yes. Yes, basically what happens is that once the products are on the shelf, there's really no funding for those products to be researched, to be examined, to be questioned. So what they will finally take an action on is that, let's say there are negative health effects being reported, or actually even deaths from products. It'll take a couple of years before enough of those get to the FDA that they'll say, I guess we should investigate this. And then they will pull things off the shelves once they start investigating. But it takes that long.
And unfortunately, it takes illness and potentially death for that to happen.
Exactly.
It would be sort of like if we took our food industry and said, you can do whatever the hell you want, but once people start dying of, like, renal failure from salmonella, then we'll look into it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. And what I found was the basis for this, for a lot of this, was a study that was actually done in Canada, and I'll give you guys a little bit of background on this study. It was from 2013, and basically what they discovered, they took, Canadian researchers at the University of Guelph took 44 bottles of supplements sold by 12 companies. They found that about a third of these were not what they claimed to be. Some of them were mislabeled. So they did DNA barcoding on the plants and things that were supposed to be in these products. Some of them, the herb wasn't even there. It was replaced entirely or diluted by fillers like soybean, wheat, and rice. So a couple of examples here. Echinacea supplements, they contained ground up bitterweed, Parthenium hysterophorus, a plant found in India and Australia that's been linked to rashes, nausea, and flatulence.
Oh, good.
Yeah, this one's even worse. 2 bottles labeled as St. John's wort. Instead, the pills in one bottle had nothing but rice, and the other bottle contained Alexandrian senna, an Egyptian yellow shrub that's a powerful laxative.
Yeah, that's not the intended effect.
Exactly.
Although St. John's nasty and interacts with pretty much everything, so it's actually probably better for you that you weren't taking it.
I know, but the idea is that out of the 44 supplements tested, 1/3 showed outright substitution, and only another plant in its place, and many were adulterated with ingredients not on the label. So some of these fillers actually could be a concern for people with allergies or those who are on a gluten-free diet. It is just quite astounding that these things are still on the shelves and being sold to people when you've got an industry here that, here's a good example. I like this quote from Dr. Baker from the study. If you had a child who was sick and 3 out of 10 penicillin pills were fake, everyone would be up in arms. But it's okay to buy a supplement where 3 out of 10 pills are fake. I don't understand it. Yeah, this is quite shocking. That
it is.
And isn't there also the idea of not just the wrong pill, but also the strength of it? In other words, if you've got an herb in there and it's supposed to have a dosage of X amount, there's no guaranteeing what the potency is of the product.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and even if you have the potency, like the concentration of that plant, and that's accurate, it's going to be different of your active ingredient between different plants, because that's how biology works.
Exactly.
Definitely. Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm going to concede here that for a while I was just in the camp, no, herbal supplements, they don't work, don't buy them. I've come around to this. A lot of them do have effects, but I still think you need to stay away from them because of the reasons that you just outlined. The fact that you don't know what's in them, the active ingredient, if that is really the active ingredient, is in wildly different concentrations. Sure, maybe there's, a gram of St. John's wort in each capsule. That's great, but depending on where it was harvested and the growing conditions in that, some capsules are going to have a lot more of the active ingredient than other ones, because a gram of leaf does not equal the same amount of compound, like you were just saying, Rochelle.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like, can you imagine if you were taking your Tylenol and it was like, well, this pill could have 500 milligrams, which would be like an extra strength, but it's also possible that it has like 3,000 milligrams, which is like as much as you'd really want to take in a day, or it could have almost nothing, and every single pill you took would be a lottery.
Yeah, and that's not a safe way to be treating oneself.
Well,
especially
exactly.
if you're on anything else, which a lot of people are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's also assuming that what's in there is actually in there too.
Right.
There's not other fun things like the it was a couple of years ago, the herbal Viagra pills.
Right. Okay.
That actually contained Viagra.
Oh, yeah. Well, and they've had that for diabetes, too. There was some herbal diabetes medications that contain glyburide, which is a diabetes medication.
Right.
So,
right.
What if somebody was already on glyburide? And for people who don't know, glyburide makes your makes your pancreas secrete more insulin. So if you're already on a medication that does this, and then you're taking this supplement, and you don't even know that there's more of this medication, you can have severe low blood sugars. This is dangerous.
And, well, low blood sugars can be potentially lethal. Like, this is not a minor thing.
Yeah.
In the same way that there's a good reason that not everyone can use Viagra and other drugs like it, because you can actually cause a heart attack.
Right. Yeah, so these are real health effects, because somehow a lot of people have thought that if it's natural, it's herbal, that means it's safe, where obviously it may not be. It may not be. You really have to be careful. Yeah.
My favorite reply to somebody who says, well, I look for natural things is, well, volcanoes are natural, bears are natural, and arsenic is natural. Do you want to hang out with any of those? Like...
Precisely. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have had points in practice where people are like absolutely refusing to take a medication, and so then you have to go to lifestyle stuff. So there's been a few times where, with appropriate sort of warning, like, you can't prove what's in this, and you may or may not get the same benefit, and all the things that we've already discussed. You know, like, if you're absolutely refusing to treat with pharmaceuticals, you know, okay, fine, go chew on a willow bark to thin your blood rather than taking a baby aspirin.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I only say that because not treating something would be worse in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And as long as, you know, people are still free to make their decisions, and that's a choice that I think we all want to be able to have, but we just want everybody to be as well informed as they can be. And unfortunately, it seems with the natural health supplement industry, they are actively not informing their consumers in ways that are potentially very dangerous.
Yes, and not perhaps being self-regulated as much as they certainly could be. In addition to the Canadian study, now part of the Senate hearings that this was involved in, their investigation into these herbal supplements, the dietary supplements, they also found that not just the useless ingredients and things like that and other things, but they also found trace amounts of lead and other contaminants. And they also found some supplement sellers making illegal claims that their products can cure cancer and other diseases, things. So heavy metals, including mercury, cadmium, and arsenic, did not exceed thresholds considered dangerous. However, 16 of the 40 supplements that they tested contained pesticide residues that appeared to exceed legal limits. And in some cases, there actually is no allowable level set because they don't have the research done. But what that said to me as well too is that that's not even being looked at, is the presence of other things inside of these supplements. So, and what I found interesting is that when you start again looking at this, you're doing some research, you're the average person going online. When I started looking at this, the first things I found were highlights from the hearings on supplements by industry people in the natural products industry who were saying, oh, the headlines were misleading, and oh, they didn't say this, and oh, they didn't say that oh, they found these things, but it was only in small amounts. So automatically it was defending, and that's actually like the first 10-15 items that came up when I did a Google search is industry people saying, oh, it was nothing, you know, the media just misreported it.
Right.
Which actually doesn't surprise me. I mean, the media's got to take their lumps with this too, because remember I said I was looking for information on these hearings, and all they talked about was Dr. Oz, Dr. Oz, Dr. Oz. They didn't really talk about what the hearings were about. But that brings me back, and I want to go back to Deepak Chopra's Ayurvedic medicines. Apparently, these too have links to, is Ayurvedic medicine safe? Apparently one of the U.S. government sites says, well, we're not really sure. Some of these products also have minerals or metals that may be dangerous. And some such metals, such as lead, can be poisonous as well. So some of these practitioners, the safety of it, they're not even allowed to practice in the United States, which really surprised me, that the United States does not license Ayurvedic practitioners.
So that's not necessarily that they're not allowed to practice. I mean, anybody can rent an office space and call themselves a clinic of some kind, or a wellness center, right? It's that they're not regulated at all. So they can do kind of whatever they want, which is worse.
It'd actually be kind of like the Wild West, yes. There are schools, and apparently some practitioners can be licensed in other healthcare fields like midwifery or massage. So probably part of their practice would be some of these other things as well. So, okay, I'm glad I just take my multivitamins. I'm limiting my supplements to my well-regulated. I don't even know if the multivitamins are regulated now. I don't know, but wow, that we're still looking at things like lead and arsenic and other items like that in these supplements.
Yeah, and I think what you had looked into as well is part of it is contamination, but part of it is that some of these things are actively added to these supplements because they're thought to have health benefits. Is that correct?
As far as I understand, for the Ayurvedic practices, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of terrifying.
It is. And then you have these being prescribed or given by people who are not regulated and don't have the power or maybe the knowledge, I'm not sure exactly which one, to test to make sure that people are not overdosing. Not that they should be giving this at all, but there's no follow through to figure out, am I loading this person's body full of lead?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. So
I'm sure it's going to be fine.
Yeah. And on that point, I think it's important to state yet again that it's all about how much in just about everything when it comes to health and diet, right? We need iron to be healthy and to get oxygen to our brains and muscles and tissues and to think and all of these things. But too much iron is a very bad thing, right? We need vitamin A for all sorts of body functions, but too much vitamin A is a very bad thing. We need some fat in our diet, but too much fat is not a good thing either, right? So it's all about how much in these cases.
And that's something people need to think of, is that if you're grabbing something off the shelf and there's no there's no one prescribing it to you, or if it's something that you're over the counter kind of medicines, that you really should follow the dosages and not think that if 2 are good, well, 4 would be better and 6 would be even more great. There are always dangers to these things, and that's why something like iron, ferrous gluconate, is you have to ask for it. Don't take that just because you think you're feeling tired. It should be at a doctor's recommendation, and you should be getting follow-up checks that are measuring that. So there's our medical information for the day, folks.
Yeah, it's true though. I mean, before you start on any supplement, it's something that you should be discussing with some sort of healthcare provider to make sure it doesn't interact with what you're already doing, or if it, increases your risk of something that you're at high risk for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess we can say that I don't know exactly. I will admit that my research, I didn't investigate everything that Deepak Chopra is talking about these days, but that Ayurvedic stance really concerns me. And if that is the kind of healthcare he's promoting, that's kind of scary. That actually, if you go to someplace like whatstheharm.net, you may not think that some of these things are actually that dangerous, but trust me, when you start reading the stories about, in the supplements area of that website, about either people didn't like traditional medicines and they chose some of these alternate therapies and they did nothing for their condition, or they overdosed on what kind of treatments that were there and they didn't realize that what they were taking was contaminated. This is potentially very serious health consequences.
Absolutely. Yeah. Within the last year, a child died in Calgary because they had strep throat, and their mother just took them to the herbalist who gave them supplements, and by the time that they went into the hospital, it was too late.
Oh, that is terrible. So what were the complications from the strep throat then, Rochelle?
So the strep throat became rheumatic fever, which is what used to always happen. Strep throat disseminates around the body, and you get all sorts of systemic features, including the bacteria attacks the heart and can actually cause heart failure. And any bacteria in the bloodstream can also injure the kidneys. And so I think it was a combination of the heart failure and the renal failure that, so...
Wow.
Awesomeness. And the fact that it was a practitioner who was in Calgary who was guiding this care and didn't say, look at this kid who's obviously septic, and go, oh my God, take this child to a hospital.
Right, right.
You know, like that's obscene to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's very possible that information was never made public, so it's very possible that this practitioner was like, "Hey, you really should get this kid seen by a doctor, but also you can give him the supplements," and the mom just chose not to do that. But
right, it's hard to know, but ultimately it's just a very sad situation that it turned out the way that it did. It didn't need to.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's like no one should die of strep throat in Canada, period.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
And I mean, I will say the one thing about regulating, I don't know how to put this nicely, regulating somewhat questionable health practitioners.
Right, right.
You know, people who are regulated, we have a legal duty to report. And child neglect is one of those things that we are legally obligated to do. So if I come across someone who is not giving their child adequate health care, I am obligated to report it to Child and Family Services. Mm-hmm. Whether or not I think that they're going to do the right thing, I have to say, hey, there's a situation here and you need to investigate it. And you know, that's sort of a professional obligation that lots of individuals, even outside the healthcare system, have. Like teachers, for example, have that obligation. So the fact that naturopaths are actually regulated in Alberta apparently didn't help this poor kid, but...
Mm-hmm. Do you find, Rochelle, that a number of people that you've encountered kind of have a resistance to regular Western medicine? Do you find a lot of that, or?
I would say it's a minority. Most people are interested in hearing about lifestyle modification, though, and I'm sure Laura has way more experience with that than I do.
They are? Really? Can I talk to those people?
they're hearing about it. They don't actually want to do the work.
Oh, right. they want to know that it can happen, but then they want the pill to do it for them.
Exactly.
Okay. Ah, yes.
I mean, that being said, I always ask when I'm doing medical history about vitamins and supplements. Just because of the potential interactions, if they are taking what they are, you know, what they actually are taking. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people are taking things that are harmful in terms of interacting with what they've been taking for their illness, or even stuff that we've given them in hospital could interact, and if they continue taking it, could be a big deal.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, I've only had a few cases that are similar to the one of the kid that I just referred to. But there was a gentleman I saw while I was on cardiology who brought in a literal shopping bag full of supplements. He'd not seen medical care for his obvious heart attacks.
Ooh.
But everything turned out well in the end, and none of the supplements that he brought in were actively harming him, so...
Oh, that's good.
But, you know, if you have someone who's young and healthy and all of a sudden they come in with, like, massively high blood pressure, you know, it could be something deadly, or it could be a drug, or it could be a supplement that's contaminated with a drug.
Right. Exactly.
So I always need to ask.
Yes, it's very good practice. Just so you know. One of the things that I find, though, in one of my positions, we prescribe supplements as a routine treatment because our patients do need them. And so I'm frequently asking people what they're taking for supplements, and they can't tell me. They can't. And the more I do it, the more I'm just thinking this is a really important thing that you need to be knowing. If you're taking something, you need to know what it is, how much you're taking, and even just a basic idea of why you're taking it. A lot of people will know, well, I'm taking a blood pressure pill, or I'm taking 2 of them, but they don't know what they're called and they don't know what their doses are. Or even just the vitamins. Well, I'm taking this, or I'm taking iron. Okay, well, what kind of iron? Oh, I don't know. What's the dose? Well, I don't know. And it's like these are important things that are, like, you need to know. And yeah, that's just an observation I've had recently.
Yes, I'm going to second that. And even if you're only taking 1 or 2 pills, if you have a card that you put in your wallet that just says, I am on these medications, on these dosages, and I'm allergic to this, if you come in, you've been in a car accident or something and can't tell us, then we know. Like,
Yeah.
that's so important. I need to know if you're on blood thinners. Like, 100% of the time I need to know that information.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so often people are like, I'm on something. My
Oh
doctor
my
mentioned-
goodness.
These are my heart pills. Okay. What do they do for your heart?
Yeah, exactly.
Do they keep it beating? Do they slow it down? Do they speed it up? Do they make it to a tango? Who knows?
Yeah.
That's
And
a really...
actually,
Go ahead, guys.
oh, I was just going to say, since we're on the topic, and I know this is way on a tangent, and it's probably going to get cut, but women of the universe, birth control is a medication. I need to know about it, and I need to know what bloody type.
Yeah, that's important.
Please. I always ask separately because everyone's like, oh, no, I don't take any medication. But I also have a drug-eluting IUD in. That comes out 20 minutes later into the conversation, and it's like, I needed to know that.
Oh, no.
Well, and see, with an IUD, I can see how you really wouldn't think of that as a medication. Like, I agree, like it is, I get that, but it's because it's not a thing that you take every day, you forget, right? You forget that it's a thing. Like, but even still, I'm sure you have lots of people who are, or lots of women who are taking a pill every day for birth control and don't consider it.
The phrase is inevitably, and I've done this too, so I admit full responsibility. Are you taking any medication? No, just birth control.
Yes.
Stop it. Just tell me about the birth control.
So I wanted to bring it back a little bit, since we had a good conversation there, but let's bring it back a little bit to supplements and Dr. Oz and Deepak Chopra. So as Donna mentioned, both of them, well, Dr. Oz, it's debatable if he makes money off it or not, but Deepak Chopra for sure makes money off of selling supplements. He sells them on his website through his wellness center and that. And even if the supplements that they promote and or sell are safe, one of the biggest things with them is that they're often not effective the way that they say they're going to be. And both of them, they like to, or Dr. Oz recently said that he wants to give people hope, give people who have no other options or feel they have no other options some hope. But what they're actually doing is they're selling false hope. You know, maybe these things work, a lot of them don't work, or they don't work in the way that they're promised they're going to work. But they're selling false hope to people. So they are profiting off of hope that is never going to realize. And that's a really sad thing. And unfortunately, because both of these people are actual medical doctors, that gives a lot of clout to whatever they say. And whenever they promote something with the MD behind their name, people are going to believe that it's going to work, and it's going to work better than if, you know, some guy named Joe said it was going to work, right? So I think so even if everything that they put out there is safe and maybe a little bit effective, but even if it's safe and it's not contaminated and all of that, it's still largely false hope. I mean, how many miracle cures for obesity can there really be? And none of it's clearly working because we're just having an increasing problem in the world here, right?
Yeah,
if these things worked as well as they did, not only would it sell like hotcakes, but we would see significant results, and we're not seeing that. So we're having this really sad false hope situation going on here. And I think that these people like Chopra and Dr. Oz, they owe more to the people who read all of their books and watch every talk that they do than to sell them things that they know aren't going to work.
Especially since Dr. Oz has the TV show. He gets press in the women's magazines. I think I see his face on, a lot of the news, the covers of the magazines and the shelves every week. They used to be, I think once upon a time it was the Oprah effect. Now it is the Dr. Oz effect, because he'll talk about something on the show and all of a sudden, boom, sales skyrocket. And to be fair, I've never actually really watched the show. I mean, I have a day job. I'm not at home watching this.
Sorry, one sec. Ah! Sorry, I'm being molested by my cat.
It happens. It happens, yes.
Do you want to just start that thought over, Donna?
I'm going to. Yes, so I have to admit that I really am not a regular watcher of the Dr. Oz show. As Laura, though, you're saying, though, they're selling a lot of false hope because they're always talking about the latest miracle, and now they call it the Dr. Oz effect. These things, all of a sudden, there's one study that kind of says maybe there's a little bit of a possibility here, and all of a sudden it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So here's a sample of recent show titles. I just grabbed some from the fall here. In about a week and a half of Dr. Oz shows. The new natural appetite suppressant. Next episode, Dr. Oz's rapid belly melt. Show after that, flush fat fast. And then we have something different, Dr. Oz's awkward hall of shame, your most humiliating health disasters. But right after that, we get weight loss tricks for every body type. And after that, we get craving killers to shut down your appetite. So if that's not reflecting a theme, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Because obviously, let's, as we say, pander to the audience. Let's give them what is a popular, and those types of things are highly popular.
That's really, I had no idea he focused so much on the weight loss thing. Like, I thought he gave just generally bad health advice, not generally bad.
It has moved more and more. I used to watch Dr. Oz because I would get a lot of questions or a lot of phrases starting with, I saw this on Dr. Oz. And so I felt that I needed to watch it so that I would know what on earth they were talking about, because I got sideswiped with a couple of questions a couple of times. And I had to stop. I couldn't take it. The weight loss part of it, pretty much every episode has something about weight loss on it. And I actually watched the segment just before doing the show, the Flush Fat Fast segment, where he was promoting a supplement called Litramine, which is apparently some mixture of fibers and maybe something else, and who knows if it actually works, because the company who makes it does the studies. And I didn't read into it too much, but basically he's promoting this thing. And the demonstrations that he does to explain how this works are very misleading.
They are physically painful.
They are very painful and awkward, and for someone who works in healthcare, I can tell what he's doing and what he's doing wrong. But for people who don't, I can see them getting, I don't want to use the word bamboozled, but very, very strongly misled by this because of the way he describes the action, and it's very sad. The thing that I found the most appalling, though, on this segment is that he had, this is the for Skolin episode, which is the belly melt one. I started watching that segment, and at the beginning of the segment, he had all of his guests in the audience, which were basically all women, lift up their shirts and take pictures of their bellies, because everybody's got belly fat that they want to get rid of. And then he chose a couple of people. I guess this was prearranged, and they put their selfies or their belfies, their belly selfies, up on the show for everyone to see.
Stop.
And then, yes, it gets better. And then he says, so what don't you like about this picture? So
the man is creating eating disorders.
He is, and this is the thing. It's like, why did he have to say that? He doesn't have to. Why does he have to preface it that this is a negative thing? I mean, obesity as a population issue is a problem, but there is not we don't need to treat it on an individual level. We have to look at it at a population level and a systemic level as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get into that tangent, but the issue is that why does he have to look at these or have these people who probably already are not feeling so happy about the way that they look because that's the way our society works, and says to the whole world, what don't you like about this? Wouldn't you like it if it looked like this? And then he shows a slim body type. And then when he has the guests up there giving the answers, they're saying, you know, I eat right, I just don't know what I'm doing wrong, I wish my clothes would fit better, why, you know, I wish I didn't have all these ripples under my clothes. And it's, I'm watching this going, so many of these things do not have to be an issue. The ripple under your clothes, that shouldn't be an issue. This, you know, your clothes fitting better. Let's talk about buying clothes that fit you well, that you feel good about, that you like. Let's talk about what you like about your body, which should be a lot of things, and not focusing on what you don't like. Why is this the way that it's prefaced? Of course people are going to have negative body images when you have this doctor, ostensibly a health expert, putting them on national TV and saying, oh yeah, this isn't good. It was horrible. It was absolutely appalling.
I want to, like, give you a standing ovation for that.
I know.
Like, I feel like I should just be like,
Applause.
yes.
Thank you, Laura.
I just, and I feel for the women, and it's mostly women who watch this show. I mean, there's men too, but it's primarily women, and I feel so badly for the women who just like, even if they weren't outwardly humiliated, they left with the feeling of, yep, I am definitely inadequate, what I thought going into this.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Oz basically told me so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah.
It was just so bad.
Well, and essentially it's marketing things at the cost of your self-worth. I mean, true, that's kind of what marketing is, sort of like deodorant.
Right.
You know, it didn't used to be a thing, and then
absolutely
some marketer decided, like, hey, body odor, it's bad.
But people like, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, yeah, the part of that is what marketing does, but there's people like Dr. Oz who have the power to change that, and they just play right into it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, his job is supposed to be providing health information, and instead he's just basically spewing marketing campaigns.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, yeah.
And we can pretty well guarantee that there's a team of the show producers behind that who look at the numbers for each episode and realize what sells, what's popular, and what's not, and have all these great ideas for, hey, let's do a segment on this. Hey, and what if they showed their bellies? Because everybody has belly fat. Yeah, so it's just sad that it has to be that way. And it really is that there's always some miracle. You know, I watched a little bit of the clips that John Oliver had, and it was clips from the hearing where Oz says, oh, I don't say that. Maybe I use some flowery language, but he does call these things miracle bean. This is wonderful. This is a miracle. This is awesome kind of things. People don't want to hear the truth. They will not watch a show that basically says, you know what? It's hard work, and you have to change your eating habits, and you can't overindulge, and it's basically lots of exercise and change your eating habits. That's what works.
And then also the limitations of your metabolism and your body type and your age and
yes,
all of these things. Yeah, absolutely. I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, no one wants to hear about the nuance. They want the magic pill.
Yep.
And they want to be perfect without having to do anything about it. Like, and people like Dr. Oz just promote this mentality of the impossible weight loss goals. So not only are they shaming people who are doing it correctly, quote unquote, the people who are working hard, to make positive lifestyle changes. They're actually discouraging that by going, well, you could spend all this time like cooking healthy food and making sure that you raise your heart rate and develop cardiovascular fitness, or you could just take this pill.
Yeah, absolutely. To bring it back to that John Oliver Last Week Tonight segment, one of the best things that was said in that segment was talking about how these people like Dr. Oz are using when they use their doctor persona as a promotion tool, it carries a lot more weight. And they said, yeah, pun not intended. They put on there, it's like, it would be a lot different if Dr. Oz was marketing this stuff rather than saying the Dr. Oz show. It was, hey, check this shit out, but with some guy named Mehmet.
I love that. That is my favorite thing. Yes, check this shit out with some guy named Mehmet. Yeah, who's going to listen to him?
Well, and there you go, right? If it's some guy named Mehmet, well, I don't know, what does he have to say, right? But and so it brings it all back. And I thought that was the perfect distillation of what people like Chopra and Dr. Oz are doing wrong. Look, if you want to have these views, they're still somewhat dangerous, especially if you're pushing completely unregulated supplements and that. But at the very least, do not put your doctor hat on and say it from that perspective. Be some guy named Deepak, some guy named Mehmet. Talk whatever you want. Just leave the other part of it alone.
Agreed.
You have to separate.
And considering when I'm thinking of this and I'm weighing the access that both of these men, okay, I won't call them gentlemen anymore, I'll call them men, have to a media outlet, I have to say Dr. Oz, ding, 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 is the winner because of his ever-presence on the TV and magazines and things like that. Chopra, it loses that one. I think Oz has to come out the winner on his influence on American and Canadian society as well on these issues.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I would advocate for. Although I admit that, Dr. Oz has a bigger audience, he doesn't really, because he's constantly changing his message, right? Like, it's constantly, oh, try this and this and this and this. There's no consistent message, and it's sort of meant to be the sort of the ADHD health advice.
Yeah.
Like, listen in for 5 minutes, get distracted, and, then move on to the next thing. Whereas Deepak Chopra sort of has this whole system and this whole lifestyle thing, so that really you come to sort of be dependent on him and for health advice, for how you should live your life. And he sucks people in with plausible sounding things like, for example, the mind versus body conundrum, as it were. There's lots of people who think that the mind is not a product of the brain, and so he uses that as a launching point of going, well, there has to be more than just neurons firing, because that doesn't make sense.
Right.
We're not even going to touch that. But he uses that to draw people in and go, there must be something more, and this is what more is. And you should live your entire life this way.
So Deepak Chopra seems a lot more insidious and a lot more long-term, whereas Dr. Oz is can be harmful in the moment, but is not necessarily like continually harmful, because it depends when you tune in, right? So could we think of, if they were drugs, what drugs would they be? Would Dr. Oz be sort of like a casual pot user? Like, maybe you're not making the best decisions, but you can put it down.
Okay.
But like, would Chopra? What would be a good drug for Chopra?
I wouldn't go quite as far to say heroin, because it's not really quite that life-changing.
I honestly thought meth.
I guess I was kind of thinking like something like that just kind of draws you in, and you just kind of go down a different path because of it.
Okay.
Let's say cocaine.
Cocaine.
Yeah, cocaine.
Good.
Yeah.
Because you start
cocaine,
spending a lot of money on it, and you start partying a lot.
Yeah, like most people,
right.
it's pretty much impossible to casually do cocaine.
Yeah.
Despite
Right.
what the people who do
commitment.
cocaine will tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. From the from the outside, you're not casually doing it. From the inside, you think you are, but
yeah, it's always, oh, things just got crazy, and then there was cocaine.
Yeah.
and you know,
and you're hooked
into like ways to make my health better with meditation and mindfulness exercises, which are actually really excellent. And all of a sudden, crystals, quantum physics.
Yeah.
And none of that stuff makes sense. And none of that stuff makes sense to me. I'm sorry. I start trying to read what Deepak says on that, and it's like, it just starts to become just a mush of words that make no coherent sense.
Oh, we should probably
feel good.
Yeah.
You feel good in the moment, and then the long-term consequences be damned.
Yeah.
You kind of regret it in the morning. It's like that. That very bad idea of a one-night stand that you go the next morning and go, oh, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
Oh, what was I thinking? Yeah.
We should probably end this because our editor needs to edit this, and to be nice to them, we should stop talking.
Yeah, not that I was. Laura, I was just thinking the exact same thing. I think we've had a really good time. I've enjoyed talking with both of you ladies this evening. This has been really interesting. Yeah. So folks, it was starting to be an Oz versus Chopra thing, and then we got into the herbal supplements, and I really hope you stuck with us because I think that was some really interesting information, and I promise both of you that I will go take my medication list, put it on a card, and it'll go in my wallet. Yay! Seriously, I really, each of those drugs has like 2 or 3 names, so I do get confused. But yeah, I think that's an awesome idea. I do try and keep up with that, but having the card in the wallet, I think that's an excellent idea. So
yeah, absolutely, I have a note attached to my driver's license with the medications I'm allergic to.
Good for you. Yeah, exactly. In the wallet driver's license thing, that's exactly where it should be. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you both very much. This has been another episode of Life, the Universe, and Everything Else. Thank you for joining us. Today I had on the show with me Laura.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes. And Rochelle.
Always lovely to chat with you guys.
Same. Thank you for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Stop.